Ever complain about your job? Think your boss is tough? Well, imagine a world without air conditioning, without modern medicine, and sometimes without basic human dignity. Welcome to ancient times, a period of incredible innovation, but also some seriously dreadful occupations. Today, we're diving deep into the past to uncover 10 jobs that absolutely no one wanted. These were the roles that were dangerous, disgusting, or just downright soul-crushing. You'll be thanking your lucky stars you live in the 21st century. Let's get started with our first avoided occupation. Kicking off our list, it's perhaps one of the most famous and utterly terrifying jobs, the Roman gladiator. While Hollywood often romanticizes it, the reality was brutal. These weren't willing volunteers most of the time. They were slaves, criminals, or prisoners of war forced to fight to the death for public entertainment. Their average lifespan in the arena? Shockingly short. Even if they survived, their lives were often a cycle of violence and servitude. Talk about a tough gig. Life wasn't just about the big fight. It was about the ludus, the training school. Imagine waking up at dawn every single day to train until your muscles screamed, eating a high-carb diet of barley and beans just to put on a layer of protective fat, and knowing that your boss literally owned your life. And then there was the psychological toll. Every time you stepped into the Colosseum, you weren't just fighting for a trophy. You were fighting to see the next sunrise. You had to look your opponent, often a man you had lived and eaten with for months, in the eye and try to end him, all while 50,000 people screamed for blood. All right, if fighting to the death wasn't your cup of tea, how about a job that literally involved wading through other people's, well, a role that truly makes you appreciate modern plumbing, the ancient Roman lavatory attendant. Now, ancient Rome was a marvel of engineering, and their public latrines were, in a way, revolutionary. Rows of seats, sometimes marble, where dozens of Romans could conduct their business side by side, often chatting and socializing. But here's the kicker. These weren't flushing toilets as we know them. Below those seats ran a channel of continuously flowing water designed to wash away the waste, designed to being the operative word. Imagine being responsible for cleaning ancient public toilets, but not just any toilets, communal ones, shared by hundreds, often without proper flushing. That was the unenviable role of the ancient Roman lavatory attendant. Not only were they dealing with raw human waste, but the hygienic conditions were deplorable, leading to constant exposure to disease. And forget protective gear, they were likely using basic tools, plunging into the cesspit with little more than a strong stomach. A truly thankless and gut-wrenching job. Number 3. Medieval executioner, the bearer of bad news and blades. Moving from the filth of the sewers to the shadow of the scaffold, our next spot belongs to a man everyone knew but no one wanted to touch, the medieval executioner. Now, you might think having the power of life and death would make you a VIP in a medieval town. In reality, it made you a ghost. Being an executioner wasn't just about swinging an axe or pulling a lever. It was a position of total social untouchability. In many European cities, executioners were forced to live in houses outside the city walls or right next to the gallows. They were often banned from entering churches, schools, or even taverns. If they did go to a pub, they frequently had to sit at a special damned table and drink from a cup that no one else would ever use. The job itself was a high-pressure nightmare. If you were beheading a nobleman and you didn't get it right on the first swing, the crowd, who was already looking for a reason to hate you, could turn into a riotous mob. Number 4. Egyptian pyramid builder, stone mover. Coming in, we head to the golden sands of Giza. Now, Hollywood loves to show the pyramids being built by thousands of slaves under the whip of a cruel overseer. But modern archaeology tells a different story, one that's actually a bit more interesting, and in some ways, even more exhausting. Most of these workers were actually free farmers. But here's the catch. During the months when the Nile flooded their fields, they were drafted into a national service project. It was a job they couldn't refuse, and it was a back-breaking marathon of stone and sweat. Imagine the math. We're talking about moving 2.3 million stone blocks for the Great Pyramid alone. Each block weighed an average of 2.5 tons. That's roughly the weight of 2 modern SUVs. And there were no wheels. Number 5. The medieval leech collector. If you think your job is a drain on your energy, try being a medieval leech collector. In an era where bloodletting was the answer to everything from a common cold to the Black Death, leeches were in high demand. They were the living syringes of the Middle Ages. But pharmacies didn't exist back then, so someone had to go out and catch them. And the method? Well, it's about as low-tech and unpleasant as it gets. Leech collectors didn't use nets or traps, they used themselves as human bait. Most collectors were poor women or the elderly who had no other way to make a living. They would walk into marshy, stagnant bogs and wait. They'd stand there for hours, letting the leeches scent their warmth and swim over to latch on. Once a leech bites, it injects an anesthetic, so the collector might not even feel the dozens of tiny saws cutting into their skin. Number 6. Roman fuller, the ancient laundry worker. All right, if you thought the leeches were bad, prepare your nose for our next avoided occupation, the Roman fuller. These weren't your friendly neighborhood dry cleaners. They were the highly specialized and incredibly smelly laundry and textile workers of the Roman Empire. And their secret ingredient for getting your togas sparkling white? Well, it was a biological wonder known as human urine. That's right, urine, especially aged urine, is rich in ammonia. And ammonia, even today, is a fantastic cleaning agent. The Romans didn't have Tide Pods or OxyClean, so they collected vast quantities of human pee from public urinals. This golden liquid was then poured into large vats in a fullonica, or fuller's workshop, along with dirty wool and garments. Number 7. The ancient miner. If the stench of the fullers didn't get to you, the sheer terror of our number 4 spot might. We're descending deep underground to look at the life of an ancient miner. While we today think of mining as a gritty but skilled trade, in the ancient world, being sent to the mines was often a death sentence in slow motion. In fact, the Roman legal system had a specific punishment called damnatio ad metalla, condemnation to the mines. It was considered just one step above immediate execution. Imagine working in a space so cramped you can never stand up straight. Miners in places like the silver mines of Lorion in Greece or the gold mines of Roman Spain worked in shifts that could last 10 hours or more, often in total darkness, broken only by the dim, smoky glow of small oil lamps. These lamps didn't just provide light, they were a terrifying timer. If the flame flickered out, it meant the oxygen was gone. Number 8. The medieval gong farmer. If you think your commute is bad, imagine having to wait until the sun goes down just to legally start your workday. At number 8, we have a job with a name that sounds almost whimsical, but the reality was anything but: the gong farmer. In the Middle Ages, the word gong actually came from the Old English word gang, meaning to go, as in where you go to the bathroom. These men were the human vacuum trucks of the medieval world, and their job was to manually empty the cesspits, or gongs, that sat beneath the privies of every home and castle. By law, gong farmers were only allowed to work between 9 at night and 5 in the morning. This was a crude attempt at public relations. The city leaders didn't want the citizens to have to see, or more importantly, smell the process. Number 9. Murex Snail Harvester, the stink of royalty. For our number 9 spot, we're looking at a job that proves even the most luxurious things in history often have a disgusting beginning. We're talking about the harvesters of Tyrian purple. In the ancient world, purple was the color of emperors, generals, and the ultra-wealthy. But this wasn't made from berries or flowers. It was made from the mucus of the predatory Murex sea snail. And let me tell you, the process of getting that royal color was a nightmare for the senses. To make just 1 gram of this dye, barely enough to color the trim of a single cloak, you needed to harvest and process roughly 10,000 snails. But the harvesting was the easy part. The real horror happened back at the dye works. Number 10. The Ancient Roman Doctor. You might think being a doctor has always been a prestigious, high-paying career, but in ancient Rome, being a physician was a high-stakes gamble that almost nobody wanted to take. Why? Because in a world without painkillers, antibiotics, or a basic understanding of germs, your medical intervention was often just a different form of torture. Most Roman doctors were actually Greek slaves or freedmen. They weren't seen as heroes. They were often viewed with deep suspicion, seen as dealers of death who experimented on their patients for a fee. Whew! Makes you appreciate modern conveniences, doesn't it? From wading through sewage to fighting for your life, ancient times had some truly dreadful career paths. Which one do you think was the worst? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this journey into the grim side of history, please hit that like button, subscribe for more fascinating historical content, and ring the bell so you don't miss our next video. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.